Hi, everybody. It's been a minute, and I want to first of all thank everybody for their understanding and patience over the past couple of days. We had this scheduled for quite a while, and unfortunately, um, due to my hand, which is better, there's just some bruising that's happening, and some fibromyalgia issues. I just wasn't able to come live, and I really wanted to be excited about this topic. Hold on a second. And come on here, and I just couldn't. I was too sore and hurting, and I just knew that I wanted to be excited because who cannot be excited about dogs? So I decided the best thing to do was to come on once I was feeling better. So I appreciate everybody's patience and understanding as I kind of battled the past couple of days. It seems like a week. I tell you, it's been something. But we're coming on tonight because we're going to discuss dogs. Now, I think all animals are amazing. I don't care. Hi, Sandy. I don't care whether it's dogs or cats or whatever it is. Unfortunately, my allergies and cats do not go well, so that's not something that I can do. Um, Hi, Mona. Yes, my hand is better. It actually had something to do with one of the dogs we'll be talking about tonight. My hand got caught between the door, and we have a like a ring doorbell on our door, and there's a piece of metal because we don't have it attached to the door. It's through a piece of metal, and because it's an apartment building, an apartment, and we can't mess that up. So, my mom was trying to come out with Mocha, and I was trying to come in, and let's just say it was crunch. And my hand unfortunately got in the middle of it. And so it is what it is. But because you heard the crunch on the doorbell, on the ring, we figured out that we didn't know whether that was my hand, and then it swelled up really quick. And we figured out we didn't know whether it was my hand or whether it was just the door. So, unfortunately, or thankfully, I should say, it was just the door and not my hand. I'll take that. I tried to kind of figure out how I could get the chat box into the thing. I'm learning more about OBS, and I am trying to understand it more, so I'm trying to put it in the background and stuff like that. But I'll get there. We're going to get there one little bit by one little bit. And then after my hand, the fibromyalgia kind of hit, and I just didn't have the energy to come on. I wanted to be excited because, first of all, I grew up without dogs. My dad loved dogs, but unfortunately my allergies growing up did not allow me to have dogs. And we didn't realize that we probably could have had a poodle because they're dogs with hair, and I could have been able to tolerate that, but I didn't know that at the time. And so we had a family member of my grandmother's that had a dog, and that dog was a full poodle, and its name was Bertay. And it was a mean one. You couldn't get near that dog for nothing. But, excuse me. But I love dogs. And I remember my grandmother coming to visit, and she just came in and she said, "Chuck, we're going to the dog shelter and getting Mary a dog today." And my dad's face was like, "We can't." She's allergic, which she didn't believe any of my allergies were real. And so we couldn't get him. So we had a next door neighbor who had Gucci, Armani, and Romeo. A miniature poodle, a toy poodle, and a teacup. And when we went over there, I didn't have a problem. Now, at this time, I was in my 20s. And we we started looking into having poodles because I really wanted my daughter to have dogs. And I knew my dad loved dogs. And so we started looking into dogs. And she actually found Abby. That was our first one. I also worked on getting pictures up here so you guys can see them. We've had some pretty amazing dogs, I will say that. I'm not tired. Just kind of catching my breath for a minute. Mona says, my mom had two teacup poodles who thinks she was a wow. I have a story about Abby. So here's Abby. I couldn't put the chat up, but I figured maybe we'd like to look at dogs more. As you're going to see in every one of these pictures, Abby, or not Abby, but every one of these pictures, my daughter's in every solitary one because she loves dogs. So this was my first experience with dogs. Abby was a toy poodle. And that's why I said I have a funny story, because when we first got Abby, we didn't know what we were doing. And my mother called me up a couple days into having Abby and says, Mary, it's either going to be the dog or me. So we spent the best, probably $500. And this was back in 2000. No, it was back in like Christina was like 4 or 5. So it was back in, I want to say like the early 2000s. And, we got Abby, and we spent the money on a dog trainer. And I'm going to tell anybody that's never had a dog, invest in training, because you as a person, if you've never owned a dog, you need to know how to work with that dog, and you need to train that dog, and find a dog trainer that's going to work with your kids. She was not somebody who had any kids, really didn't enjoy children, but she said children are part of this equation, and I'm going to train the whole family. We socialized Abby a lot, but we got her from Mississippi. So my dad and I actually but we actually went to the Fort Lauderdale airport and picked up this little tiny dog. She was adorable. She was like 1 pound. And by this picture, a lot of her apricot, she was an apricot. Oh, I'll have to look at it. She was an apricot dog. But by this time, she had outgrown a lot of her apricot. She was adorable. And so we went to these puppy classes, and Abby was a spitfire. I mean, she was small, but she was mighty, and she let you know it. And I went to go pick up Abby because there was this Rottweiler that was obviously puppy, a little bit bigger than she was. And the trainer said, pick her up. And then she corrected me. She said, no, just don't pick her up yet. And Abby was perturbed by something that this Rottweiler had done. And so she just got herself up, and she just turned around as strong, as mighty as this. By then she was maybe 2 pounds. She got to be about a 10 or 11 pound dog. And she just started strutting her stuff. And she absolutely turned herself around and marched this Rottweiler right back to his owner. And if he'd had a tail, it would have been between his legs. Excuse me. Sometimes I have asthma. It's how I kind of correct my breathing if I need to. She loves chewing on the toes and heels as well. And so she literally just marched her little self back underneath this gentleman's legs. And if it had a tail, it would have been between it. And she just turned her little self around and said, see, Mama, see what I did. She strutted herself back. She had several times where there was dogs coming at my mother or something, and they were large dogs. And she would just stand really tall and proud in her little 10, 11 pound thing. And she would just let them know that they were not allowed in that area. You know, she was just not allowed. And they would go to off and running. They never attacked her because she was tough. She was a tough cookie. She just showed me that you don't have to be big to be mighty. Good evening, Kristen. You don't have to be big. You can be small, but you can show people how tough they are. I'll never forget, our alarm system had gone off one time, and there was 2 police officers that came to the door. And I had come home, and Abby was barking. And they said, can you go ahead and get your dog safely restrained and let us come in and just make sure that your house is safe? And I was like, fine. And I went in and grabbed Abby and picked her up. And the two officers looked at me, and the one officer looked at the other and said, you were afraid of that? So she was a tough cookie. When she was about a year old, my dad was in the pest control business and had rat poison that he had in his shed. And my uncle was helping with some remodeling done to the shed. He kept all the stuff locked up. And unbeknownst to my dad, my uncle swept out what had must fallen from the floor, which was rat poison. Abby ingested that rat poison. And I came home and I thought, what did you get on your mouth, girl? And he said, it's not that, Mary. We had to go have her stomach pumped. And thankfully, my dad knew what it looked like, what it smelled like, and got her right off to the vet. And they pumped her stomach. And she lived to be she lived till she was 15 years old. She was a tough cookie. She was very sick for many, for quite a while. After that, for about 3 weeks, we didn't know if she was going to make it. The one thing that I can tell everybody is that we got pet insurance with Abby right off the bat. And if you have a dog or a cat or an animal, you need to have pet insurance on them. I will link what pet insurance we use. We've had it on every dog we've owned. I will put that in there so that you all know which ones we use. And I remember the piece of going to the vet and having to take her one night to the emergency vet overnight, and not having to necessarily worry about the cost. That was a huge thing. So Abby was a Spitfire. She passed away when she was 15 years old, but I can tell you our next dog knew who the boss was. And even Abby, her little 10-pound little self, knew that my daughter often would need deep pressure. And she would lay herself from here all the way down and put her full body weight on my daughter, and be able to try to help her to calm down. She was at the very end of her life an emotional support animal for my dad, who had dementia. And she wasn't much of a cuddler, but she was very much of an independent dog. And I think what I learned from Abby was you don't have to be big, but you can be small, but you can be mighty, and you can be independent and strong and be a tough cookie. And that's exactly what she was. She was a toughie. So that was Abby. That was our first one. That was my first dog. I was very grateful. It was hard. And I can tell you from Abby, I really understood what it was like when people said they lost a dog, because I never experienced that. It was absolutely the hard decision to make, to have her be put asleep. It was a very hard decision to do, but she ended up having kidney failure towards the end, and we knew that it was only going to get worse, and it was the right thing to do. It just was the hard thing to do. And the thankfulness that I think for that, as difficult as that was, my dad was at a state where he didn't realize that we lost Abby. And so, because he was very, very attached to that dog. I mean, very attached. And shortly after she was sleeping in a crate when she got the rat poison ingested. And my dad said, can she sleep on our bed? Well, she never left my parents' bed the entire time she was there. So that was Abby. The next one I'm going to talk about wasn't my dog, but it was my daughter's dog, and the most expensive dog that we ever purchased. But honestly, worth every solitary penny. This is one of my favorite pictures of Christina with Jordan, and I will have Christina on so that she can tell you her versions or her experience with each one of these dogs. So this was Jordan. Jordan was a black lab. He was an autism service dog. He was rescued out of a shelter 24 hours from the time he was going to be unalived, unfortunately, and he was rescued out of that to be a service dog. He was the most amazing dog that I could just ever. He was just amazing. I can't say enough about him. He was a lifesaver for our family, and for my daughter, he was the gate that opened the world to her. He came around about 2012 when we started raising funds for him, and realized when you raise funds for an autism service dog, it can cost $15,000 and up. They are not cheap by any stretch of the means. They're worth every penny. So I counted pennies, I counted quarters, I counted dimes. We had one lady that dropped off literally dimes and nickels, and I said to my husband, we are counting every solitary penny. I'm not giving anything to a machine. We raised money through Melting Pot, and I also raised money through getting her on the news. And somebody donated the full amount needed to be able to gift this, my daughter, this wonderful, wonderful dog. And so Jordan was a hoot. He was very much different, but when he put that vest on, he knew he was working. He knew he was off to work, and he knew what his job was. And I'll never forget, probably about a year into, him being in our home, and he came home on Friday the 13th in July, and I said, and slept with my daughter, that he often slept by the feet of the bed for a while until he got the understanding of it. And it was maybe sooner. It was probably about 6 months in, or maybe 6 months to a year. And I had left enough room between the headboard and the back of the wall, and, or myself, the headboard and myself. And Jordan just came up a couple minutes in, and he laid between my daughter and I. And then he got up a few minutes later and went behind the door, behind my back, like, don't worry, Mama, I got your back. And he slept there, and I would come in and find all certain positions of Jordan and Christina, and I thought it was just I've got pictures of just the most wonderful images of just him laying there with her. And he really was just, for me, he was my little angel on the shoulder. He was my, part of me that just was so grateful to have some kind of help and help her. He was a very gentle giant, but I can tell you, he knew who the boss was, and the boss was Abby. And oftentimes Abby would come and sleep and sit in his bed, which was much bigger than hers, and he would try to curl up his little self into her little bed, and it was just so sweet. And if he was laying in her bed and she came over, he would not even do any. He was like, nope, you're the boss, you get it. He knew who the boss was, and that was Abby. So to me, he was the most gentle giant in the world. For me, the biggest thing was when the best day was when he came home, and the hardest day is when we had to say goodbye to him. Well, please catch it on the replay. I have more dogs to show, so you have a wonderful afternoon, but come back when it's over and watch it on the replay, Mona. We appreciate you coming on. Christina was diagnosed with diabetes in 2013. And Jordan, much later in his life, he was probably about 8 years old, he got diagnosed with diabetes. And so the roles were reversed, where Jordan was able to help Christina, and then Christina had to help him. So we kept Jordan around for as long as we could do for him. He had diabetes for about a year. We couldn't get the numbers to control themselves. He eventually went blind, and because I said to Christina, we should go ahead and give his birthday the day that he comes home. Well, that was Friday the 13th, and we said no. So Christina says, I want to share my birthday with him. And so we did. And he passed away the morning, at 12:30 after her birthday. So they spent one more birthday together. He went down very quickly. In his, there was, unfortunately, there was no other decision, but it didn't make it easy. There was just, the only thing I can say is he was 100 pounds, but he was the most gentle giant you could ever imagine. And I don't know if anybody's seen those shows where you see those vets who meet with the dogs and they take 2 or 3 dogs until the connection is made and that's the dog. Well, we actually went to a melting pot for a fundraiser, and the lady had one dog there, and that was Violet, and that was a golden retriever. And then she did okay with Christina, but it wasn't until they brought in Jordan, and these two became inseparable. I mean, it was just, you saw that connection. They were lying on the floor, together, cuddling on the floor, and the thing was just, they were just inseparable together. And this Jordan was actually zoned or designated to another person, and they had to switch the people. They had to give Jordan the dog that was designated for this other child, and then the other child got the other dog. And they were actually teaching Jordan not to lick, but Christina likes dogs that lick, and so they didn't have to worry about that anymore. But the bond and the connection was absolutely magical. It just happened, and it was like, that's the one. So I think what I learned from Jordan was 2 things. Gentle giant. You can be big, but you can also be very gentle. And another thing that I learned was unconditional love, because he loved that dog. And oftentimes I'll say, job well done, Jordan. If you see on the screen on top of my head is a paw print. That is no ordinary paw print. That is Jordan's paw print. And so that paw print is very special. When Christina was doing tie-dye, it went on every piece of tie-dye thing that she had. So Jordan's paw print will forever be in our hearts, and that's his paw print. That's not just any dog. That is his paw print. He had a very unique paw print, and that's actually his paw print. So I thought it was very fitting that one of her dog's paw prints, and the most special as far as I'm concerned, when you have a service animal, the bond between the service animal and its person it's serving is amazing. And I will do a whole thing. I will bring Christine on. We're going to talk about that from a mother's perspective, and also the person who had the dog, because I think that a lot of knowledge needs to happen for of understanding of what service dogs are, what the difference are between emotional support animals. So he, for me, out of all the dogs we had, I didn't get too close to him because of what he was doing. He was serving Christina, but in my heart, he holds an extremely special place in my heart. So that's Jordan. After Jordan passed away, in 2000, I have to remember now, 2019, Christina came to me and said, Mom, I don't care how you get a dog in this house, but you have to get a dog. This was like a week later. And I cannot tell you, if you have an opportunity to foster any dogs, go foster. I know it's difficult to hand them over and separate that, but you don't know what you're doing to get a dog out of a shelter. It does not have to be a dog that necessarily has a medical need. That you have to be doing a medical intervention like what Jordan had with diabetes or anything, or they're having puppies or anything. They just need out of the shelter. They need a break. The shelter needs to know exactly what kind of personality, and it's really hard sometimes in a shelter situation to get that. So sometimes they can't get a fix on exactly what what the dog is, but they can do that in a home. they get training, they take some work, but sometimes they just need to decompress. So if you live in an area where you're like, I can't own a dog, but I'd love to own a dog or a cat, see if you can go to your local shelter and foster. They often will give you the food. They often will give you the help. You won't have any vet costs and so forth and so on. So foster. So all the next dogs that we had in our presence were all dogs that we fostered. So that was Jordan. And again, Jordan was, for me, I know he was my daughter's angel, but he certainly was this mama's angel. He made a huge difference. So the next one is Buddy. Now, Buddy was a dog that was also very shortly going to be unalived due to the fact that they just couldn't find anybody that wanted to adopt him. He was probably about 8 or 9 years old, and we went to the shelter. Actually, my sister-in-law went and posted and said, you should go check out this dog. And so we went to the shelter to go ahead and see Buddy. Well, when we saw Buddy for the first time, I didn't know what to expect. Buddy was very noisy, and I thought, oh my gosh. And my husband and my daughter fell in love with this dog. And so I said, okay, we'll go ahead and take this dog home. And they said, come back in a couple of days and you can foster him. I want you to start seeing a trend or a line going through all these dogs. My Sandy says, my best friend just adopted a homeless dog whose owner died of cancer. The new dog is so happy, and all the family loves the dog already. Awesome. I want you to start seeing a line through all this. I want you to notice Abby. I want you to notice Jordan. Do you not see in every one of these the love that's there? And the reason why I picked pictures that had my daughter in them is because you can see the love that goes through all of them. And so we brought Buddy home just to decompress. And he was hound and he was pit. And I know people are going to sit there with the pictures that I'm going to show and they're going to say, oh, they're pit mixes. And we can have our own view of pits. But I'm going to tell you one thing about all the next dogs I'm going to show. I know that they may have some pits in them. But I can tell you one thing. Every one of these dogs coming up were dogs that my daughter needed in her life to help her through some very difficult times. Pits do not have locking jaws. I think a lot of them are genetics, and a lot of them are how you raise the dog. That's evident in the way Mocha was first raised. These are dogs that are not necessarily socialized. I think they're very misunderstood. And they are not, I'm going to stress this very, very much, they are not for first-time dog owners. If you have never had a pit bull mix or you've never had a staffy, they are not for dog owners that have never had a dog. And if you do get one, you better get a trainer that works with them so that you know exactly how to train them as if you get them from a puppy. Don't get them from a puppy mill. Don't get them from, you got to know what their genetics are to some degree. You got to make sure that there's responsible breeding happening. Any dog can bite underneath the right circumstances. And so, people have had some my husband will never get near a Chow or a Dalmatian because he was mauled by both of them. And so I think it depends on the dog, how they're raised, the owner, and they are a bully breed. And you have to be a really strong pack leader. And I'm going to say that right then and there. So Buddy was a hound and had pit in him. One thing that we noticed with Buddy very shortly in is when anybody would go ahead and tickle or there was a roughhouse. Buddy got very defensive. He was not going to bite, but he was right. He was right over there to break it up. And we actually had to hug each other because Buddy was very sensitive to people even hugging. We had to hug and reward him for not getting upset from us hugging, because I'm sure that Buddy had experienced abuse to some degree. So Buddy was one that probably would not have done well with other dogs. A lot of pit mixes, not all, don't do well with other dog settings because of somewhat of their temperament. It all depends on the dog, every solitary one of them. We had several people that were interested in Buddy. One had other dogs, and I felt that was not a good place. I felt he needed to be the only dog in the house. The other, there was one gentleman that was interested, but he would go back and forth from Kentucky to Ohio, and the person he stayed with in Ohio had another dog. And I thought, this is not going to be a good thing. It's just too much back and forth. One lady, towards the end of Buddy's life, I talked to her, and she said, I have 4 or 5 boys. I can't remember exactly how many. And unfortunately, and I said, that's great. I thought it'd be a great situation. They had a backyard. This is great. She said, however, I said, when they're going to roughhouse, mind you, they're boys. That's all that needs to be said. When they're going to roughhouse, for Buddy's safety and for the boys' safety, you need to place them in the crate. Well, she wasn't home all the time and with the boys all the time. And so she said, I don't know if I can monitor that all the time. Not that he's going to attack. Not that he's going to bite, but he just gets stressed out when people roughhouse. He doesn't know how to handle it. And if you worked with him enough, you probably could kind of do that, get that out of him and train him properly. And we were working with that just with basically giving each other hugs. So she decided not to. We had Buddy for 9 months. And one morning he came up and he was acting a little funny, and we had stairs. My daughter had like a little basement apartment downstairs where we were living in Cincinnati. And he went down the stairs, and the very last stair, this was not a dog that yelped very often, he yelped. Something's wrong. So I called the place that we were fostering him through, and they said, bring him in. Well, they ended up taking x-rays of Buddy, and they realized that he had somebody use a pew-pew on him, and the part of that was still in him, and it had just healed around it, and he had actually bone fragments that was around that. What we think happened is that somehow that moved and dislodged, and he was having difficulty walking. Well, by midnight he couldn't walk. He was totally paralyzed. The next day was my husband's and mine anniversary, so we didn't do much the next day. So they came and picked him up and rushed him off to the hospital. It was, the hospital to get looked at. They called us in the morning and they said, he's in a lot of pain and he can't move. And the best thing to do is, again, put him to sleep. And I said, can we go there? Just to say goodbye. And they said, we don't have time for, he needs to be out of suffering now. And so they did. And I said to them, well, can we go down to the adoption place and adopt him right now? So when he leaves this world, he has a family that's adopted him. And you know what? They said, don't worry. You're his forever home. And we gave him 9 months of love. This dog needed love. And from Buddy, I think the transformation, which is what all these dogs kind of had throughout, his strength, and I only wish we could just have them speak for a little bit and he could tell us his entire story life, because I'm sure it would have been just tremendously fascinating and at the same time frustrating. that sometimes we don't judge a book by its cover. Because at first, when I first saw this dog, I thought, oh my goodness gracious, he's going to make a lot of noise. And I don't quite know how to deal with him. And I'm not sure about this dog. And I'm so glad he didn't listen to me. There was a lot more under that dog. And man alive, when he left this world, this woman cried. I remember writing a post and I said, I wonder if he knew that when he left this world, there'd be people crying over him. And we're sad. And they ended up actually allowing us to have his ashes, which my daughter was able to have. And they said, you're his forever home. He found his home. It wasn't on paper, but he found his home through you. And he was an amazing, amazing dog. I am forever glad that he came into our lives and certainly changed them for the better. But for definitely for him, Buddy was there after the loss of Jordan. He helped Christina in so many ways. So I think for him it was don't judge a book by its cover. And I wonder, sometimes when we have things and trauma that has hit us, how we react. And how we have to learn not to react in the same way. We have to process through that. We have to have people that are patient with us and love us. And this dog, when my daughter would leave to come home, my mother had a little place mat, a little rug, and he would sit on that rug right at the front of the door waiting for this girl to come home because he loved her. He loved that girl to death. And I remember her just loving him through coming out of his shell. He was an amazing dog. But I'm so glad that we got to be his forever home. He may never have found it on paper, but we were it. And I'm very glad that I didn't listen to myself. Sometimes we need to not listen to ourselves and listen to other people. So that's what I learned from Buddy. The next one that we got was Nyla. Nyla was also a pit bull mix. I think she was probably a staffy, maybe. When we first got Nyla was nothing but skin and bones. You could count all of her ribs, literally. She was no trouble at all. She couldn't even go down the stairs. My daughter had to walk her down the path, going down around the house because she couldn't handle the stairs. It took her about a month of just rest and food and love. And they gave us Nyla with the thought that she may very well be a hospice case because of how sick she was and how malnourished she was. Nyla stayed with us for about 2 months. And she was a sweetheart of a dog. And she slowly got her strength back. And she slowly was nursed back. And she ended up being in the most amazing home for 2.5 years after she left us. And we actually stayed in connection with the lady who adopted her. She passed away last year. But she had 2.5 years of just the most amazing, amazing home. My husband named her Nyla Doodles as a nickname. This dog had an Instagram. If you go on Instagram and type in Nyla Doodles, you will see Nyla. And she has her own Instagram. So she was an amazing dog. Just a sweetheart of a dog. I mean, she just was the sweetest. But she needed a little bit of TLC for a while. Till she was strong enough to get to where she could have the energy to do stuff. I think what I learned from Nyla was sometimes we forget to give ourselves TLC. Sometimes we get to where I did after I hurt my hand. I was tired and I thought, I can go on. No, Mary, you can't. You have to rest. You've hurt your hand It's affecting your fibromyalgia. It was other things on top of that. And we're going to have a discussion about that. And you need to rest. I could not even get up on Wednesday. I've lost track of days. My mother had to bring me my dinner, which was just eggs and something else. I can't remember what it was. Or at some point, that's all. An omelet. Because I was so tired. Getting up from bed was too exhausting. And sometimes we forget we need that TLC. All our ribs are popping through. We can count each one of them, but we're still pressing on, and sometimes we have to. But sometimes when you're dealing with chronic pain or fibromyalgia, you have to say, wait a minute, take a step back. We took care of Nyla and got her strength back. And she was able to be adopted, and she was in an amazing home. She was a sweet dog. And no trouble, but she just needed somebody to come beside her and love her. And that's exactly what she was. She was well loved. Like I said, go look up her Instagram, Nyla Doodles. And here's the thing. If you can make a connection with the people that foster, thankfully we were able to. And my daughter was able to connect. Sometimes they will, sometimes they won't. You can keep updated to what happens with these dogs. When Nyla was towards the end, we were able to FaceTime, and my daughter was able to say goodbye and, so forth. And after, when she had her birthday, shortly after she was adopted, Christina went to a birthday party for her, just with the lady who adopted her and my husband and Christina. And so my daughter made that connection, and then she was able to see Nyla every once in a while. And it was awesome. It was really awesome to see that. And that was a really special connection. Like the lady says, Christina had her foster mom, but then I was her mom, towards the end. So Nyla just needed TLC. And I think that we need to remember sometimes we need to that TLC. And sometimes we need to stop and ask people for help. Like I had to text my mom and say, Mom, I can't even get out of bed. I just need something to eat. Can you make me an omelet? I'm really sorry to bother you. And she kept saying, stop saying that. You take care of me when I'm sick and not feeling well. It's my time to take care of you. So sometimes we need to rely on help. And I'm very thankful that my husband, he said, I got a great mother-in-law, and my mother lives with us, and he's so grateful about it. And I'm so gracious that he is. So we can kind of all take care of each other. So after Nyla was Hunter. Now Hunter was a staffy. And here's another thing. I learned to never say never, because God says, you're going to say never? I'm going to give you something. It's going to say you'll never do that. Because I said, I'll never own another staffy ever again. Hunter was a staffy. He was very misunderstood. And within 4 days of having Hunter, I just remember thinking, I'm going to pull my hair out. This dog decided that he did what kind of Mocha did at the very beginning, is that he actually would have accidents, and that got better, but it was just because the dog was so stressed. They had to actually put him in the window at the shelter because he couldn't take all the barking at the shelter. And they didn't really get a good fix on Hunter because they didn't really have enough time for him. Within about 4 days, he slowly started to come out of his shell and started to be more manageable. But I think sometimes that we get somebody in our lives that is sometimes a little bit overbearing or a little bit excitable, or you're maybe that wallflower in the corner, and you know what? That person has never met a stranger, and I'm a little nervous to go up and get to know them because they're a little overwhelming and so forth. And we maybe miss out on a great friendship over here because we're a little nervous to go up to them. because they're just all over the place. And sometimes it's really hard to put the work into somebody or work into a friendship in order to see the outcome at the end. Well, the outcome of Hunter was amazing. And he helped my daughter during COVID. He helped my daughter when my dad passed away. And he was an amazing dog. I often wish and look back and think, I wish we had adopted him, but then we wouldn't have been able to save Mocha. He did get adopted. Unfortunately, I don't. Oh, this was close. Mind you, we adopted him, I think September, October, somewhere in there, around in there. So this picture was taken close to December. There was a huge difference in Hunter. There is a video actually on YouTube, and I will put the link in this later. And my daughter taught him to say, I love you. And it sounds like, actually I could probably pull it up. It sounds like Star Wars. I'm not kidding you. I'm going to show that. Because he's like Chewbacca. It is so funny. Let's see, where are you, Hunter? Let me turn the volume up. Hold it a minute. Let me get a pause so I can get it. And it was actually the video that got him adopted. All right, we're going to turn this up and let you see what Hunter does. I don't know if y'all can see that. I love you. I love you. I love you. So that was Hunter. Do you not hear the Chewbacca? That was Hunter. But that was after a lot of working with him and, working through some stuff. I know he was, and that was the video that they posted on the shelter website and was the one that got him adopted. But my daughter worked on him to get him to say, I love you. But he was adopted in the middle of a snowstorm. I didn't like the way that it happened because it was done very quickly without really having the opportunity of really saying goodbye. And here we had him one moment and then he was gone the next. He was put into a home. He had somewhat of a happy home. The owner did send me some updates here and there, but she didn't really stay in much contact. And we did, before we left Cincinnati, try to go and say goodbye, and I didn't get any response. So, and then a couple days before Christina got married, I got a text saying, I have had a situation. Can I drop Hunter off at your house? And I said, well, we don't live there anymore. We're in Mansfield, and my daughter's getting married in 2 days. And I didn't hear anything after that. So I don't quite know what happened to Hunter. I hope that he got placed in another wonderful home, because he was a wonderful, wonderful dog once he had decompression. So I think if anything, I learned from Hunter that sometimes in relationships, it takes work. And sometimes we need to decompress. And sometimes if we're going like this and going around in circles and all this kind of stuff, we need to go do something, whether it's read a book, listen to music, crochet, knit, do something, and decompress so that we're in a good place. He was not in a good place when he came to us, but that worked itself out one little bit by one little bit with lots and lots of love. So Hunter was an amazing dog, but again, the shelter couldn't see that because of they had so many dogs. Excuse me a minute. I am so sorry. We're having a problem with our speaker. Our speaker that has our Wi-Fi in it, hooked up to our TV, has somehow turned on. I don't know whether somebody or whether another resident has gotten into it and Bluetooth itself to it, but I don't know. It's coming on like the weirdest thing, and it'll come on with something that has nothing to do with anything I'm watching. And football games will come up, and all of a sudden, I have no idea. So I apologize. Didn't expect that to happen. So anyway, where was I with Hunter? Oh, just Hunter. I definitely learned that sometimes you have to, you have to work through things, and sometimes people need to go decompress in order to be able to deal with the situation at hand. And sometimes after they decompress, they're often much different than what they were before. So Hunter was another one where you don't judge a book by its cover. It gave me a very special place here, especially for staffies. They're the most human dog, I think, out there, where they can look in your eyes in a way that no other dog has ever looked in my eyes and just can read you. They are cuddlers. They are lovers. Here's the thing about staffies. If you are a first-time dog owner, you either get training with somebody that knows Staffordshire Bull Terriers. Make sure you're getting a breed that is bred correctly and humanely. And it not to be the first dog that you ever own. Because again, they're the bully breed. They can be stubborn. And so if you don't know what you're doing, it's gonna be all thrown off. So that's my advice if you're somebody that has never owned a Staffy. They're amazing dogs, intelligent beyond belief. They're amazing dogs, but they're not for first-time dog owners. And if you're bound and determined to get a Staffy, then you need to get help to come in to train you properly, and making sure that that you're doing it right, because you can do Staffies and Pit Bulls totally the wrong way. Here's the thing about that, and especially when it comes to Mocha. Staffies and anything with a Pit Bull mix are already given one strike. They're given a strike by a lot of people. And so you have to make sure that when you're dealing with that breed, you're doing it responsibly and you're doing it correctly. You can't let them away with an inch at times, because sometimes they'll go it's like, it just keeps growing. But he took a lot of work. He was a lot of work. But I think sometimes what we do, it was nice seeing you, Sandy. I'm going to finish up too. I didn't know if Tommy was going to do a live or not tonight, but Hunter was a tremendous dog. And again, he was staffy, but he took a lot of work, and sometimes we need to put work into friendships, and it's amazing what blossoms after that. The next one we have, and before I do that, I'm going to do an honorable mention here. This is Buddy. Buddy was never one of our dogs that were owned, but he was a dog that actually was at a cabin that we went on vacation for, my husband and I and my daughter. And Buddy was just amazing, and he was the kind of the Buddy mascot, I think you could say. He was the cabin mascot. He belonged to another home, and he would come around and check with the guests, and he just connected with my daughter in tremendous ways. And he actually slept outside. I guess, I don't know if he slept inside during the day, but he was waiting first thing in the morning, every morning that we were at that cabin, to go play with my daughter. And she has never met a dog she didn't like. So I had to throw Buddy in there. He was just a neat dog. He was just, I'm telling you, I learned something from that dog too, because it was like, I'm going to connect with you and I'm going to come over and say hi. And how many times do we have people and friends and neighbors that are there and we don't connect with them because, oh, well, I don't want to bother them. Sometimes we need to go knock on those doors and connect and say, hi, I'm your neighbor. How you doing? My name is Mary. What's yours? Because if you don't do that, then you'll never know. And he went up and he goes and connects with every one of the people that come to that beautiful place in Kentucky and connects with them and gets to know them and, just hangs out and makes sure they're doing okay. And sometimes we need to do that to our very neighbors. And sometimes if we don't, he was a connection dog, that was for sure. But we didn't know him, but he was for the time we were there, he was an amazing dog. And he actually followed us out because it took about a half a mile to get into the place, and he followed us out. He was an amazing dog. The last dog is the one, not Hunter. Oh, no, not that one. I'm learning this, y'all. I'm going to get a screen back here. I haven't figured that out yet, but we'll get that. The last one is Mocha. Okay, the last one is Mocha. Mocha is the current one that we have. God love her. She's the one that got between me and the door, and my hand got in the way. Mocha was abused. She was held by neighborhood kids that choked her and was rescued from that and actually put into a situation where she was then abused in another home physically. Every time she would do something wrong, she got hit. So that was Mocha's life. This is a dog in which, in order to get her nails trimmed, it takes about 3 of us to, get her secure and let the dog give her a shot in the tail end, and so that she could get sleepy enough to trim her nails. It's about a $90 thing every time we want to trim her nails. But it is what is best for Mocha and best for the staff, that she's asleep while they do all the examinations. It makes me sad because she's such an amazing dog that she's been through so much, but she is so lovable. And to me, what I've learned from Mocha is first impressions. First impressions of Mocha is sometimes, oh my goodness, people don't want to get anywhere near her. And she'll often say, I'm going to show you my teeth and I'm going to growl and I'm making a lot of noise so that you see how big and strong I am because I don't want to get hurt. I've been too hurt in my life. I don't want to get hurt. How often do we do that? We shut down, or we make a noise, or we make ourselves look however we want to look so that we don't get hurt. And it's so funny because she'll bark and make a whole mess, and then she'll sit there and whine because she wants to go out and get to another person. She'll wag their tail. And she'll sit there wagging her tail as she's barking because she doesn't want to get hurt. She's very protective of herself. She's afraid of strangers to some degree. So I have to make sure that when we're going out with her, there's a vest on her that says an emotional support animal. Please do not pet. I don't put a service dog vest on her because doesn't have the qualifications to be a service animal. But I do the emotional support vest on her because I want people to come up to her the way I want them to do. I want it a very controlled environment, and I want to do it where she feels safe. Like nothing's going to hurt her. I got her back. How many people in life do we say, you know what, don't worry. Like what's going on with Tommy right now? Don't worry, Captain. We've got your back. I don't care what anybody else says. We have your back. And I want to make sure she knows I have her back. But at the same time, I'm not going to let her get away with anything. If she wants to go act like a fool, fine, go act like a fool, but you ain't going to do it around me. I'm bigger, and I'm going to do it lovingly, but I'm going to correct you because I love you enough to correct you. And I'm going to do it the right way. Past couple of days, she's actually had to have a house leash on her because she's been just barking a little bit more. People walking by, she can see out our window. Guess what? You're getting a little out of hand. We're going to put you in check. My aunt came here for a visit. She had a hood on. I met her outside, and something didn't jive right. And it took me about an hour, and my aunt kept looking at me going, oh, poor baby. And I said, please stop saying that. Mocha already has a strike against her. She's a pit mix. She's a staffy. And I'm going to make dang on sure that she does not have, that image. So she's not acting the way I want her to act right now. She's not acting that's acceptable behavior. So she's going to be here until she gets herself together. And eventually she did. She got herself in check. But sometimes we need to say, you know what? I need to stop talking till I can get my words to come out so that I can stay in check. Sometimes we'll come out with words out of our mouth that are hurtful to somebody else until we sit back going, we probably should have just not said anything until we got ourselves in check. That's going to be another discussion we're going to have. But Mocha has been through so much. And she still wants attention and love and connection. She will cry at my husband's and my bedroom door because she wants in to get those hugs and those cuddles and that love. And again, do you not see the thread from the Abby all the way through to Mocha? One little girl. Now, Abby had a wonderful life from start to finish. Jordan, I don't know what his past year and a half was, but you know what? He's kind of like, what's that? Oh goodness, can't think what it is. Now I'm Pooh. That I can't think what it's called. What his name is? That elephant. Eeyore. Ooh, nothing could bother him. He was just big Eeyore. All the way through to and then Buddy and Nyla and Hunter and Mocha. They all needed lots and lots of love and safety and protection and hands of love. And patience. Mocha has showed me a lot how to be stronger in myself, and how to make sure that I am not going to allow my past to dictate my future. And how sometimes we put up that ruff, protection because we don't want to get hurt. We're going to put a tough exterior because I don't want to get hurt again. And sometimes we need to do that. And sometimes we don't. Sometimes we need people to see here. And sometimes we need people to do one thing. Understanding. And that's what I ask for people when they meet Mocha. I don't ask you to be sympathetic for her past because her past is no longer a future. But I ask you to be understanding that I need to do that what Mocha's been through. Don't go, oh, poor Mocha. No. Understanding. So you can understand why she's acting the way she is. And sometimes in life we need to be understanding to each other because we don't know what somebody else has gone through. When you look at Mocha, you would never think what her past was. And I think, oh, man, goodness gracious, if somebody had taken this puppy and taken her feet and played with them and used a nail clipper the right way, and it's probably done very roughly and done right, she probably would have not had one problem going to get her nails trimmed or us trimming them. But nobody socialized this dog by taking her to a vet as a puppy. Nobody loved her. She'd have been a very different dog. She's taken a lot of work to undo the trauma of what happened. And we only know a snippet of maybe a lot of what happened. She could have been a runt. She could have been not given enough food. Sometimes a little bit of understanding to each other can go a whole long way. And your past does not dictate your future. So I'm going to end here because this is really all the dogs we fostered on. I think it's probably one I'll do again. Like I said, some of these ones that I'm doing, like my battle plan, is going to be ongoing. But I'm probably going to do this again as we get more and more people and content. So if it's a thing I've seen her do that one before, fine. Don't come back and listen to it again. But I'm going to do this as we grow again. Because I think all of these dogs have shown me something, and maybe something in all these dogs will show somebody else. And I can do it better next time because I'm getting better every time I get on. But what I want to show people by leaving these up is I want to say, listen, go and see the first one I did. And now go see it maybe 6 months from now. Do you not see the change? How much better I've gotten? What I've been able to do better. Maybe get the chat into here. And maybe we'll be on StreamYard by then, so it'll be much easier. But I'm going to leave them up because I want people to see you don't have to be pros at this. If Tommy can sit there doing the same show 3,000 different ways, then we're going to do it again. We'll pull up this topic again and do it. Maybe I won't have my TV go off. But I want people to say, I want you to go back and watch that one. Because I can do it better. I did it better 6 months later. When I knew more and understood more and got the technology to work all with it. And we'll have my daughter on and go through all these dogs and give you what her perspective was. Because I guarantee you what her perspective of each one of these dogs is different than what my vision and my thing was with each one of these dogs. Very different. So I'm going to hop off here. I'm glad I could finally come back on. I thank you for your patience. Next Wednesday, we're going to talk about flowers. And I want to bring that topic up because I want people to understand, don't put yourself in a box and say, I can't do that. So I certainly want to show that. And bring those on now that I've kind of figured out how to do pictures and stuff, which I think is pretty cool, y'all. I'm going to figure out how to get a background on. I'm going to figure out how to get the chat in the darn box. It's got to happen somehow. We'll figure it out. I also I've got I don't know if I'm going to do it live yet or not. I don't know yet. But I did a sample of each of the favorite yarns I did, which was favorite, Super Saver, and Saver 100. I did a little sample of each one of those, and I crocheted with them. And I want to do a video, and I don't know whether I'm going to do it live or not. I may not do it live and let people see each one of the samples and be able to tell you my experience working with each one of them, so that people that are looking for ice yarns, especially those, the favorite, the Saver, and the Saver 100, those Pacific yarns through ice can have a very distinct review on those three. So I am going to do that. Next Wednesday is going to be about the flowers. Hopefully I don't have, hopefully I'll just keep getting better and we'll get there. I'm going to try to put a background in, and I'm going to try to figure out how to get the chat over here I'm going to try to do it so people can see the chat when they watch the replay. I'd like to be able to do that. So that's for now. Also, check me out on February the 15th, 7:30 Eastern, or 7:30 CST time, 8:30 Eastern time. I'm going to be on My Other's Keeper. I've put in a post for that too as well. So we're going to chat too on her channel. So check me out then. I will not be on Monday. I do not come on Mondays because it's just a really difficult day for me. I go to my therapy and then I'm swamped. So again, we're going back to Nyla. Self-care. We'll see about Tuesday. I'm going to try to get my daughter. She worked all this week. And I just did not get her to have a chance to get on. So we're going to maybe try to get her on Thursday to do a mother and daughter discussion. We will see. But we will see. I will talk with her and try to get her on. She is coming here. So I'll see if I can get her on, and maybe the next time she comes, we can sit down and maybe even do it while she's here one day. That'd be really cool. Usually she'll come on Sundays. Alrighty, I'm going to go get off here. I'm going to go hop over to the lifeboat and talk with that and have my tea. I have not had my tea. I wanted to... Give me a minute. I was trying earlier because we were on, and it's not a Bible verse. But I think this is a very good ending for tonight's show. One thing I will say is I'm very thankful that God placed all of these dogs in our lives, especially my daughter. My daughter has a tremendous passion for dogs. The pit mix, the bully breeds have had a special place in her heart because especially those last fosters were all ones that she needed them very specially. So when you're going to look for a dog, do yourself a favor and maybe sit with a dog trainer. Make sure that you're getting the right dog for your temperament, your abilities. Getting a dog because it's one that you like or cute or whatever, that's wonderful. But sit down with a dog, or dog trainer, and somebody that's knowledgeable, so you make sure that you're getting the right dog for your situation and your family. And educate yourself depending on your age of your children of what is appropriate and what's not. As far as we need to make sure that if we have children in the house, any dog that we have, we're making sure that we're showing our kids how to interact and react with this dog appropriately. And so, we just need to make sure that if we've never owned a dog before, we're sitting with a trainer or somebody that's knowledgeable, finding out what's best, how to do that, how to interact the dog into our family, and make sure that the dog itself is not used as a jungle gym, or that we have our children going out and bothering the dog while it's sleeping, or whether it's eating, because the dog could be in a mid-sleep and not realize that and nip the child because it disrupted during the sleep. So we just need to make sure that these are dogs. I don't care what breed they are. And we need to make sure that we are, educating ourselves and not necessarily getting a dog that is because that's our breed and that's the one we want. Making sure that we're getting the right breed and the right dog for our home and our family situation. And we're also training our kids. If we have kids that we're training how to interact with dogs appropriately, then we're training future dog owners to do that as well. So I highly recommend having pet insurance. This way, when you go to the vet, you're not stuck with a huge bill. You get reimbursed for it, and You know, it's like putting a little savings account. We didn't need it for Abby until we needed it for the one, and we really didn't need it for Jordan until, you know, majorly until he was dying with diabetes, and that was a $4,000 bill. So we were able to rely on the pet insurance, and, you know, just if you've got a dog with maybe a pre-existing condition, if you wait to get the, you know, like we had waited to get the policy after Jordan had gotten diabetes, a lot of them will not take care of you because the dog is considered having a pre-existing condition. So it's better to get it as a puppy if you're going to get it, or when the dog does not have any illnesses that won't stop them from covering whatever it is. So I will put that, which one we specifically use, in the a referral link in the description. I forgot to do that. You know, invest in a trainer, a knowledgeable trainer that can come in and help you and make sure that you're training and doing, you know, what's right by the dog and by the people in the house. And just, you know, we do our homework sometimes before we go buy a car, but sometimes we just go and we pick up a dog and we don't do our homework to make sure that that's the right dog for our situation and our environment and the kids we're with and all that kind of stuff. And I think sometimes we need to do a little bit more research before we bring in a dog into a home to make sure that it's the right dog for the right situation. A lot of these dogs are very misunderstood, like us. I think sometimes a lot of people misunderstand people, and they're misunderstood, and then they're put with people that don't totally understand or don't get them, and then, you know, it's a vicious cycle. So, you need to do what's best for you and your family, but, you know, let's make sure that we're getting the right dog. If you're going to get a dog, the right dog for your home and your situation and your family, and educate yourself. Invest into a trainer if you need to, if you feel you need the tools to make sure that you are handling your dog correctly and wisely. And a lot of these dogs coming from shelter situations, they just need to go someplace and decompress. And, you know, the way we looked at every dog that we fostered was we were able to let them in, and it was hard to let them go, but at the same time, we were able to give them a break from the shelter. And then you get your next one to love and work on. So that's a great thing, a great way of, if you can't financially have a dog, but you want to help, go to your local shelter and see if you can foster them and give them day breaks and overnight breaks and weekend breaks and stuff. And then you get to love a lot of dogs, and get to change the lives of a lot of dogs. We changed every one of these dogs' lives, every solitary one. And that was just done with a lot of patience and a lot of love and a lot of understanding. And I'm grateful to God that He placed all of those dogs in our lives. They were amazing, amazing dogs. So I'm going to end with this quote because I think it's so fitting. And I did put it in the lifeboat when Tommy came on tonight. And I said, and a lot of people said this was a quote, and it's a quote by Elvis Presley. And he said, and it said, "The image is one thing, and a human being is another. It's very hard to live up to an image." Put it that way, Elvis Presley. So, you know, sometimes we have this image of a person, and we try to put them up there, and the human being is a totally different one. So, that is, I think, sometimes where we need to make sure that we're getting to know the person. We can't, you know, Elvis himself was an amazing artist, but I love his music, and we're going to talk about him. I love his music, and I always will be. But he had an image. But as I've gotten older, I've wanted to find out more about who Elvis was. Not Elvis Presley, the super, Elvis the person. And you have to separate those. And sometimes these dogs, especially the ones that we fostered, their image and their way they viewed the world was through eyes of hurt and pain. And we needed to change that image. to show them what love could be and what connecting with somebody else could be that wasn't going to hurt them. So let's keep the connection going. Let's spread the blessings. Thank you all for your patience. I will be on. I may even hop on tomorrow night because I haven't been on for the past. I've forgotten what day it is, y'all. Just come on and talk. And we'll have this discussion again because I want to be able to say, you can go back 6 months ago and I did this better. But I'm just coming on and I'm doing it. And I'm going to keep all these up because I want people to see you don't need to be perfect. And you can redo topics again if you feel you can do it better and you learned something from the previous one. And I guarantee you when I go through these dogs again, I'll pick something up from each one of them and go, oh, I forgot about that. And I'm so glad that I've been able to have dogs and enjoy them and love them, and I'm just grateful for each and every one of them. They certainly have touched here, and each one in different ways, every solitary one. So thank you for hopping on tonight. We will do this topic again. Maybe I'll bring somebody on that has had, anybody out there that's fostered dogs, that has had several dogs in their lives that want to come on and tell you what they've learned from each one of their dogs. That would be awesome too. And again, see me on The Other's Keeper. I will also put her link in our description as well. I will be on her channel on February 15th, so see that. And I will see you all later. Have a great, great day. I am probably going to do another topic because I think that there's a lot of people that I have been thankful that I have been able to make connections with through the lifeboat that have come and hopped over here. And I think maybe we'll have a discussion and so forth about what happened with Tommy recently. And again, like this, past is your past. We can all change and we can all make a difference. And we got to stand by each other during really good times, and sometimes when we slip, we got to stand by. True friends do. And we're just gonna keep supporting each other and keep connection rolling and going, and stay connected. One step at a time. That's all we're gonna do. So let me know in the comments what dogs you've had in your life that have made a tremendous difference. And if you want to go on to the the Lighthouse Beacons, place some pictures in there of some of your dogs that you've had. Let us know what you've learned from all of them. It is our Facebook group. It is public for right now. We'll get eventually probably changed to private. But put in there some of the dogs you've had and let us know what dogs you've owned and what you've learned from them. And maybe we can learn something from the dogs you've owned as well about life and about love and connection and about, some of these dogs had some really hard knocks thrown at them, but they all came out just smelling like roses. And that happened with a lot of love and understanding and patience. So I will talk to you all later. Thank you for hopping on. Spread them blessings and have a wonderful, wonderful night. And again, thank you for your patience as I was kind of going through my hand and so forth, and my little time where my fibromyalgia decided to flare up. I appreciate it. Have a great night. I will talk to everybody later. God bless. Spread those blessings.